G'day everybody, welcome back to Paddlecast Quarantine Edition. How y'all doing out there? Hope you're staying healthy, hope you're staying safe, and I hope these daily podcasts are giving you a little bit of entertainment, inspiration, and just some insights from some of these incredible paddlers around the world. We are going to be doing one of these every single day, so long as this lockdown period continues. That's my commitment to you in the SUP community. Every day we'll do a podcast with an interesting paddler around the world. Yesterday, there wasn't a standard podcast. That's because we did basically a 3-hour live podcast with Bart de Zwart. We had the Midnight Sun watch party, Chased by the Midnight Sun, our Yukon River Quest documentary. That was a lot of fun. We kept Bart up way past his bedtime, and we shared some stories from that crazy race in the Yukon. If you missed it, you can jump on SUP Racer and have a look. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. So thanks to those who tuned in. Thanks to everyone that's been listening, watching these daily podcasts, commenting about them. Definitely motivates me every time I hear your feedback. We're going to be doing these again every single day. I'm not sure what I signed up for either, but it's fun. I love chatting with the paddlers. I love chatting about paddling, about their lives. And I really love chatting with today's guest, because my guest today is a paddler I have a lot of respect for, and just a person I have a lot of respect for in general. It's Kaneko from Japan. He's an amazing paddler and an amazing human being. He's a fanatic about paddling. He loves to paddle. Whether he's sitting down or standing up, he's just really passionate about paddling. But not only is he passionate about paddling for himself, he's really passionate about sharing paddling with others, about getting people at home over there in Japan out onto the ocean to discover the joy of paddling, what it can do, the benefits, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. Paddling's a very powerful thing. It's been a very powerful thing in Kenny's life, and he's become sort of an evangelical, spreading the good word of paddling. So I guess you could say paddling is his religion. And it's something I really respect. I've respected the way he's gone about his paddling career, but I really respect how he carries himself off the water. He's just an all-around great guy. Family man, got 2 young daughters, and I appreciate him taking an hour out of his family life today to chat with us. So we'll jump into that in a moment. Quick heads up, Club SUP Racer, just a couple of days away. There'll be more news on that soon. If you're listening to the future, listening from the future, rather. If you're listening to the future, let me know what's coming. Let us all know, because who knows what's coming these days. But if you're listening to this in a few days from now, then jump on SUP Racer. Go to supracer.com/club. The doors might even be open by now. But if not, then hold tight for a couple of days, because the special monthly membership, insiders only, little paid insider access club that we're doing to kind of find a creative way to keep funding SUP Racer, to keep these daily podcasts and everything SUP Racer does rolling. That's going to open soon. A couple of bucks a month, or a couple of bucks a week, whatever you want to contribute, and you'll get this behind the scenes access. There'll be some cool members only bribes so that you sign up. But really, it's just if you want to support the creative work of SUP Racer. Also, if you're lucky enough to go paddling, can I just say, please make the most of it, for starters, which I'm sure you are. But secondly, spare a thought for those paddlers around the world that can't get out on the water. Both Kenny and myself are lucky enough that we can still access the ocean and go paddling and surfing. So if you're able to go out there, every second stroke, take a stroke for yourself, and then every other stroke, kind of take it for one of the paddlers that's locked inside around the world and is just going crazy, not being able to get out onto their beloved oceans, rivers, lakes. All our friends, a lot of friends in Europe are stuck inside across the States, South America. I mean, let's face it, all around the world, people are stuck inside. So I hope these podcasts are giving you a bit of entertainment. And if you can get out in the water, please think of those that can't, because suddenly that fundamental human right of being able to play in the ocean, in the rivers, in the lakes has been taken away from a lot of us. And now it's a bit of a privilege. I know I went surfing today with the crew here from One Ocean Sports. We went foil surfing out here at my local spot on the Gold Coast of Australia. And I don't think I've ever had so much fun surfing as I have the past couple of weeks, because for one, I'm learning how to foil surf, which is incredible. That's so addictive. I can see now what all the fuss is about. 2, now we really appreciate it like never before. And that makes it extra special. We don't hang out down at the beach. We head down there, get in the water, get our exercise in, have some fun out there, and then jump out and go straight home. But we are lucky enough here in Australia that we're still allowed to go surfing. and paddling. So we definitely appreciate that, and we're thinking of you guys all around the world that are stuck inside, but it won't be much longer, we hope. And whenever we're allowed to come back and meet up as a community at the events, it's going to be a big celebration. And as Kenny and I were talking about today, I think this sport's going to come back in even better shape, because this is a chance for us to just realign our path a little bit, not reset, not hit pause, just change course a little bit and come back, at a better, more positive direction. It's late, folks. It's 1 a.m. here, so I should stop rambling and get this episode underway. Recorded a couple of hours ago with Kenny, and then actually jumped on a call with some friends from Paddle Monster, Larry and John, who are doing awesome work with Paddle Monster over there in the States, keeping the community coached and stoked. And there's a special little project that we might be working on together. I can't really say any more right now, but I've got a lot of respect for those guys over there at Paddle Monster, and I'm excited that we're going to do a little bit of a collaboration. You'll hear more about that. You'll hear more about Club Sup Racer. You'll hear more about Marble Racer in the weeks to come. Until then, right now, you're going to hear from the man, Japan's longtime number one and the official ambassador of paddling and stoke, Kenny Kaneko. Welcome to Paddlecast, quarantine edition, buddy. How you doing over there?
Good. Super busy with, 2 kids and the wife and veggie garden and new projects.
Congratulations, your second daughter.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect timing, just like Connor and Anae. You guys really,
Yeah.
you really timed that well.
Yeah, I was chatting with her on Instagram, and I think our kids were born on different dates because of the time zone, but like couple hours apart. So
Yeah,
that was
right.
pretty neat, Yeah. What a coincidence.
How's it been? You've been basically just isolated at home with 2 kids? You're allowed out in the water though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I live, like 3-minute walk to the beach, so I can get out on the water. But at the same time, because I have no races, there's no need for me to train. So my first priority right now is playing with the kids and being a dad.
That's awesome. Where would you be right
Yeah.
now if this crazy pandemic hadn't swept through? Were you going to take a bit of time off with your kid anyway?
No, I was gearing up to do the OC1 Molokai race this year for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, right.
Um,
That's in a couple of
so
weeks
I would have,
or in a few weeks, right?
yeah, supposed to be. Yeah,
It was going to be,
supposed
yeah.
be.
That's clearly not happening.
Yeah,
What's
for sure.
what do you prefer? OC or SUP?
I like both, but I feel like I'm more comfortable on the outrigger.
Yeah.
But because every time I race stand up or like I downwind on the stand up, it's just stressful to me because I'm like missing bumps that I shouldn't be missing because of trimming my board or my board control and stuff. So that's why I feel like I still have a lot of room to grow in terms of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you prefer
Yeah.
downwinding your outrigger?
Yeah, it's just
It's a lot faster, isn't
I
it?
like both. Yeah, it's a lot faster, but I like both. I like the surfing feeling you get on the stand up, but at the same time on an OC1, if shit hits the fan and the wind changes directions, you don't feel like you're in danger really because you can kind of paddle through it.
Yeah.
Whereas on a SUP, if the conditions change, then a lot of times you can be in a really dangerous situation.
Have you heard Travis's philosophy on outrigger versus SUP?
No,
He's basically
I don't think so.
he said he'd travel anywhere in the world for an outrigger race, but someone would pretty much have to pay him to go to a SUP race. Like he's
I
really
can kind of see.
he's really passionate about outrigger. Are you similar or?
I mean, it's kind of my first love to the sport of paddling was outrigger.
Yeah.
And even where I live, not many people race stand up at my level, but in outrigger, you know, you can get on the 6-man with friends and have a great time. And I don't want to say I prefer outrigger paddling because stand up is my job,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I I love paddling my outrigger for sure. Like I've never been paid to do a race on an outrigger, but I've always traveled for it, kind of thing.
Is there such thing as like pro outrigger races with prize money anywhere outside of Tahiti?
No,
I
there
like this
really
video of
isn't,
you and your
and that
daughter here.
yeah, it's on the outrigger, it's just so much easier to get on the water with my daughter and stuff because on the stand up, you know, I only have like 21-inch wide boards, and it's taking my taking my
Does
daughter
she
out
know how to
on
swim
that
yet?
is like kind of, but I think she'd be scared, and you're far away from your kid too, you know, if you're standing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I've been coaching the kids around where we live, like my canoe club in Hayama, Japan.
Yep.
And that's kind of been my passion project for the past year or 2 years.
So how long have you been doing this? When did you actually start outrigger?
I started when I was I was kind of late. I started when I was 20.
Yep.
Um, but before that, like my dad's been paddling for maybe 35, 40 years. But
Yep.
I thought paddling was the most boring sport in the world growing up. I was more of a soccer and surfing guy, you know.
Yeah, weren't you
But
borderline doing a pro career with soccer?
yeah, so I grew up playing soccer in the U.S. and I basically was on in the national team pool for under 15 and 17 U.S. national teams. But I never had a citizenship, so I could never play in the official games. But I'd been to like the club team World Cup for under 14s and 15s, and I'd been scouted by a Japanese professional team, and that's kind of what brought me back to Japan in the first place.
Wow. So you actually grew up in
Yeah,
California, right?
yeah, from when I was maybe 7 to 17. Yeah,
You kept a bit of the accent there. You're the most,
yeah,
you're the best pronunciation of any Japanese paddler I've ever met. You're much easier to
yeah.
understand
I
than the other
mean,
guys.
I speak very. People say I speak very slow. Like a lot of people in high school would tease me like saying I speak like I'm stoned all the time. But but I never was, you know?
Well, that's perfect for a podcast. You got a podcast voice. You've actually been doing
Thank you.
a bit of like quasi podcasts, Instagram lifestyle.
Mm.
I've been seeing
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
regularly. You've been staying busy over there in this
Uh,
downtime.
well, I think it was kind of like a motivation thing, you know? When things stop like this, which has never happened in our lifetime, I think we kind of start doing spontaneous stuff that we've always wanted to do. And I've always loved listening to podcasts, your podcasts, Joe Rogan and Rich Roll, and just like lifestyle stuff. And the best thing about paddling is not just like the competitive stuff, but the people you meet.
Mm,
And I've been lucky to meet like water athletes, but at the same time, just like lifestyle athletes. I interviewed a guy that's one of the best snowboarders in Japan. Was in a Travis Rice film, like super famous.
wow.
But I became friends with him because when I was with SIC, the SIC distributor distributed cards.
Mm,
And I have a lot of connection like that. So I thought it was a great time to try and go live on Instagram at first because that was the easiest for me to do. But maybe I can turn what I've recorded in the past into podcasts. But
yeah.
podcasts aren't very big in Japan.
When's
Like,
KennyCast coming out? Come on.
I think podcasts are very late in Japan in a sense that nobody really listens to them
Yeah.
because all the good stuff's in English, you know?
Yeah, right.
But I think there's a real opportunity there because so many people commute.
Yeah.
on trains, and they got so much time. So maybe I'm hitting a diamond in the rough with it, you know. I don't make any money with it as long as I can spread the knowledge that we have, especially a lifestyle that's not becoming a businessman, which is
Yeah.
99% of the people in Japan. Like, it's, yeah,
Is that changing at all in
for
Japan
sure.
now with this? I mean, with so many businesses closing and people not being able to work at the office? Because Japan's got that famous
Y-
stereotype of the salary man that commutes to the office every day and
Yeah,
basically gives his life
yeah.
to the company.
Yeah, so what's happening is very funny. Like, people around me, you know, they have to telework now from home. And the wives are complaining that they have to cook 3 meals a day and stuff. So it's like the the dads don't really engage with their family in Japan. That's the norm.
Yeah.
So hopefully this changes the family dynamics and the work dynamics and the culture over here. Because at the end of the day, you know, you can have job being a banker, making a lot of money, but that doesn't mean anything when stuff like this happen.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. So hopefully it's a great timing for people to, even myself, you know, just take a step back, look at it from the outside, and realize what's important in life.
What is important in your life apart from your wife and kids?
I think being out on the water every day is very important. It is kind of like a meditation thing for me. Um, because I paddle my outrigger half the time, stand up half the time. But I think just being out there and breathing that fresh air um, was kind of what I fell in love with when I started stand up and outrigger. Um, when I started paddling outrigger with my dad, I was in a very dark spot in my life because I just gave up my dream of becoming a soccer player. And I was in a country where I'd never lived in, kind of lost in translation and lost in the culture. And the only place where I could actually felt like I could breathe was on the water. So I try to do that every day because, like everybody, I'm stressed in this situation as well, you know? And my goal in my life is to try and get as many people to have the opportunity to get on the water through what I do and what I share through social media or through racing. Racing is just like an avenue for me to grow my bandwidth, kind of thing.
Wow. So paddling's deeply personal to you.
Yeah, it's very personal, you know. It's it's something that always helps me take a step back and look at a situation, even if it's a little fight with my wife or situation I have with my kids. Like, when I get on the water and I come back, I always feel like a better person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, like, as long as the government can't take that away from me, then I'm okay, you know? But I really feel for the people, especially in Europe or in California or US, that's in a lockdown,
Mm.
because I wouldn't know what I'd be doing. Like, workout in my house doesn't do what the ocean does for me. You know what I mean?
Japan's not exactly well known for having big houses either. So if everyone was stuck inside, you guys might go
Mm,
stir crazy pretty quick over there.
e- exactly. That's another thing with people teleworking now is they don't really have rooms where they can work. So they're working in the living room trying to make business calls when kids are running around the living room, which is a nightmare. Like, I'm recording this on my dining table because
Yeah.
we basically have one big room and a kitchen and a bedroom. So, yeah.
Have you ever worked in an office? Does Kenny Kaneko ever put a suit on?
Nah, suit for graduation
Yeah.
or like parties, but never in an office, which is very rare in Japan because basically you're expected after university um, to get a real job. You know, your last year of university is usually called job hunting year.
Yeah.
You go to all these forums, career forums and stuff, trying to get a job. And that was kind of the culture of the university I went to. But I had found paddling in my life then, and I was like, I just want to do this a little more and, work part-time and try to, string things together so I can still stay on the water. And that's kind of what I'm still doing today after 12 years. Yeah.
You strung it together pretty good. You're one of the best known international athletes. You're the long-time Japan number one. How much longer are you
Mm.
going to be Japan number one for? There's some fast kids coming up.
Phew.
I think Rai must be riding your tail these days.
Yeah, I mean, he's always on my tail these days. He's one of those kids that's got talent, that's got the work ethic, and that is a second generation paddler because his parents have, a little shop in Okinawa. But at the same time, there's a lot more kids coming along. I think the international paddling community has really helped stoke the paddlers, especially in Okinawa, out. And those kids, man, like they're getting really, really good. So I don't know. I like the challenge of racing the kids, and it still helps me stay young, and hopefully I can still, beat them when it counts for the next few years.
Have you got the most active domestic race scene in the world? It seems like there's a race every weekend in Japan outside of winter.
Well, not anymore,
Not anymore.
but but yeah, so basically there's no real season that like there's no association that puts a season together, but there's just so many events every weekend. I think from March to October, there's at least one race every weekend.
Wow. Why?
And I know this because I was trying to plan an event
Oh
and I
yeah.
could not find a date where it didn't clash with another event.
Why there's so many events? Like we struggle to get one event every couple of months in Australia, and we're a famous ocean-loving paddling nation. Why is it taken off
I,
event-wise in Japan?
I think like there's a lot of people that there's a big surfing population in Japan,
Hmm.
but at the same time there's not many waves.
Yeah.
So the people that's always wanted to surf, like they'll they'll stand up paddle because it kind of looks like surfing. Well, not anymore with like the dugout boards, but kind of looks like surfing and it looks fun. And they take it and then they start racing. And there's a lot of people that are like fanatics in Japan. Like you've been to events here, like
Hmm.
Boothie
They're
or Lincoln
passionate.
shows up. People want autographs and photos.
Yeah.
They show up to 12
People were
Towers
taking
like
photos with
nobody
me.
wants autographs.
I was shocked.
Yeah, yeah. No, like Sup Racer is like, a celebrity in Japan, which is which is great for the sport. Like there's I don't know about Australia, but there's probably like 100 kids in Japan that want to be professional stand-up paddlers.
Really? Well, there's
Yeah,
probably
which
about
is
20 of them on Zamami Island when we went down there. That was pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
about
That was very cool.
600 people on the whole island, and 20 of them are like junior paddlers. That the percentage of the population wise, that's like the most highly concentrated junior paddling hub in the world, almost.
Yeah, and you realize Japan is an island country, you know. So we're surrounded by the water, whether it's the ocean, the river, or the lake. So there's a business opportunity for shops to have a stand-up business in those areas.
Yeah.
Once there's enough members at the shop, like they start grassroots events, and a lot of people start racing, and Another big thing is the distributors. The distributors in Japan are very well organized.
Yeah.
It's not just like a dude importing 20 boards, you know? Like it's legitimate like trading company
Yeah.
that has an outdoor sports branch that does stand up for business. So they put money into the market, which helps everybody, you know. So and
Where's
SUP
everyone?
is kind of like the mm.
Where's everyone putting their boards?
So that's a situation in Tokyo and where I live because homes are very small and people live in apartments. But so they ride inflatables or a lot of shops by the coast have like board lockers, and that's a huge business ever since windsurfing, you know.
Yeah.
They basically get like $80 a month to store a board.
Wow. So it's
Yeah,
expensive to
and
be a paddler in Japan.
yeah, but you know, compared people like for some people, yes, but compared to golf, which is one of the, you know, most popular recreation sports in Japan, like it's not very expensive compared to golf.
I remember when I was in university, we did we studied the uh, the financial crisis, the financial bubble in the early '90s, and how it hit Japan.
Okay.
And at one
Yeah.
point, they were trading golf memberships like they were shares because the land on the golf club was so valuable that if you had a membership, you basically became a millionaire by default. And so people were buying and selling golf memberships. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
and then it all burst a couple of years later. But maybe we can get in
Yeah.
early with the SUP memberships. Maybe we can become like stock tycoons, buy up all the SUP rentals.
Mm. And you know, like when windsurfing was in its heyday, like Japan was the place to come to make money, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
you guys had like $250,000 prize purse events at one point for windsurfing.
Yeah, yeah. So when windsurfing went down, like all the people that worked in the industry were kind of looking for something to make money out of, and
Yeah.
SUP came, and they're still pushing the envelope right now.
So a lot of the SUP distributors are the windsurf, OG windsurf distributors.
A lot of them are, but now there's other people getting into like becoming distributors for SUP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's just to totally change the subject? What was the mood over there like with the Olympics? The whole will it or
Mm.
won't it be postponed?
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into the politics of things, but Tokyo and Japan has spent so much tax money to build new stadiums. You know, like when you host the Olympics, like your country goes into debt,
Yeah.
right? So basically, when Japan had to make the decision to postpone, that was like it was there was no choice, but at the same time, they were desperate in wanting to run. That
Yeah.
like the COVID situation has been in Japan like at the same time as South Korea, you know, in January, but they were hiding the numbers kind of thing,
Mm,
so they could try and host the Olympics still. And then once the Olympics got canceled, like the next day, all of a sudden, there's like 300 people in a day that's getting, you know, COVID.
yeah. So the real numbers
And
came out and it spiked.
yeah, yeah, and ever since then, it's like every day there's like 100 and something in Tokyo getting infected kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the mood, even for the athletes and the companies that have been sponsoring the Japanese athletes and stuff, I think after, even with the postponement, like I think we will go into a reset.
Yeah.
Um, but that's kind of inevitable, even if you were hosting the Olympics or even if you're United States, you know, like, yeah.
Are you guys, what's the mood in Japan for the Olympics in general? Forget the virus. Because some countries just embrace it and they love the Olympics. The others are like, they don't want to deal with the headache. What do the locals
I
in your circle think?
I think Japan loves the Olympics because like it's because Japan so in the major sports, soccer, basketball, football, we're not competitive globally.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Olympics, we have athletes in niche sports that can medal, right?
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't say niche, like I respect all the athletes that represent Japan, but like, like gymnastics, or judo, or like now
Didn't you
there's
get
rock
Taekwondo in
climbing,
there?
like maybe like baseball, I think is
Or
in there
karate? Was
now.
it
Like
karate? There was one of the Japanese martial
mm,
arts that got in, and I was like, Japan's
it
just
was karate.
giving themselves a gold medal there. That's a smart move.
It was karate. But you'd be surprised how popular karate is like everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge in like it's like jujitsu, you know? Like France, judo is like more popular in France than it is in Japan,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
crazy.
Did you get the UFC
Yeah.
craze in Japan? Because you got such a rich history of martial arts, or is that like kind of blasphemous UFC?
UFC is we have a Japanese version of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like before it was called Pride. I don't
Yeah.
know what it's called now. Like I like the UFC, but I don't look at any other groups that host the martial arts.
Is there a Japanese Joe Rogan? Some bald guy that gets really
No.
excited at UFC?
No, there isn't. There probably is. I just don't watch TV enough. Yeah, I don't keep up to date with all that situation.
I should come over to Japan. Maybe I could get a job. I got the hair already.
You know what? If you learned a word or two in Japanese, you probably could. You got a character. Like,
I've always had a good time in Japan. Japan's a fun place to come for an event. I've been there, I think, for 2 or 3 different races. The old Japan Cup and Karama down there in Zamami. There's always good
yeah,
memories at
yeah.
Japan. Everyone's so hospitable. Like, how are Japanese people just the
Mm,
nicest people in the world? What, especially with their guests that come in from overseas? Like,
yeah.
why is that such a strong part of the culture?
I
Not that
think
the rest of the world are
Japan's a very,
jerks, but Japan just goes to another level.
yeah, I think the Japanese people are probably like, I can say this because I was kind of an outsider, but the most respectful people in the world. And
Hmm.
when you speak the language, you realize how there's so many different ways to say stuff. Like you can, when you're talking to your elder, you
Yeah.
change how you say stuff, and it's just Japan. The culture is all about respect, and especially when an outsider comes, a foreigner comes into Japan, like we try to respect them as much as we can, and that's the culture. Yeah.
It's definitely transcended to paddling because every paddler I speak to, the first time they go to Japan, they come back saying, "Oh my God, that was so nice."
And the food is good.
Oh, the food's ridiculous. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I could live on
yeah,
sashimi.
and it's cheap too. Like eating sushi in Japan doesn't set you back $100. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
So where are you exactly? You're just south of Tokyo, near where the old Japan Cup
yeah. So
was?
I'm like 50 minutes away from Chigasaki.
Yep.
Before I moved to the U.S., I actually grew up in Chigasaki.
That's like the
Yeah,
surf town,
so.
right?
Yeah, it is the surf town, and I vividly remember my dad making me surf when I was like 4 or 5, and I hated it. I just couldn't wait to get off the water, kind of thing.
When did you stop hating it? In California?
Yeah, I stopped hating it in California, I think when I was in 7th grade. Like
Yeah.
all my the thing to do in Southern California is like when you get into middle school, you start surfing. Your friend's mom drives you to the beach. You start surfing, you join the swim team, and you play water polo kind of thing. So that's kind of when I started back surfing, and every morning before school, like we'd go surfing with friends and stuff.
Was it a weird culture shock coming back to Japan? Did you feel Bill Murray for a while?
Yeah, I mean it was definitely lost in translation for
Could you
me.
speak the language?
Even
Did you grow up speaking it?
not really. No, I
You had to learn.
so
You had to learn Japanese.
when you're Japanese in the US, like usually you go over because of your parents' job situation, right? But my dad is was very different. Like he went to the US to raise me and my brother.
Yeah.
And we had no visas when we went over, so we were living out of a hotel for I think 2 weeks. I remember going the day we got to the US was Thanksgiving. We didn't know what Thanksgiving was, and everywhere we went was closed. And we were like, whoa, we must not be welcomed here, kind of thing. You know, like, but at the end of the day, like when I came back to Japan, I couldn't read like the Chinese characters. So I had a very hard time getting around at the train station and stuff. And I'd get lost all the time. I'd be late to my soccer practices. I would say stuff like, you know, in the US, you're supposed to be a gentleman, right? So one funny story was when I was on the train, I was sitting on the train and there was this girl in front of me standing, right? And it was a pretty empty train. And I was like, have a seat, here you go, kind of thing. And she looked at me like I was hitting on her at a club or something, you know? And I was like, yeah, I had many situations like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Those subway maps are pretty hard to comprehend in Tokyo. That's like this.
Yeah.
It's like it goes along the whole stretch of the wall just in a loop. I had to take photos of it when I was there. That was like a work of
Yeah,
art.
because the subways, like the train is so good and so on time. Like there's so many trains, there's so many lines that go through a station, and you get on the wrong one and you're like you set yourself back, an hour kind of thing. So,
As
yeah, there were many times like that.
are people still are the trains still the same now, or with everyone working from home, is it gone back to normal? Because Japan's trains are famous for like people, those guys with the white gloves pushing people into the door like sardines to get them
Mm.
closed. I'm guessing that would break
I
some
think
social distancing rules.
Yeah, so I think the government announced a state of emergency last week. So hopefully it is better now, but I still know like more than 50% of the people have to commute to Tokyo just to keep the economy running kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of I'm not for it or against it, I don't want to take sides because there are many countries that's totally shut everything down. But,
Yeah.
there's at the end of the day, you got to look at yeah, people will lose lives and can get infected by this disease same time. It's like if you stop everything, so many people can lose jobs, go into depression and,
Mm.
come out of this in a worse spot. So it's a hard topic to choose sides and stuff, but I understand people have to take the train and go to work. I feel for them though.
Yeah. What do you think the sport's going to come out of this looking like? Because our sport's been a interesting roller coaster over the past decade. You've seen a lot of it.
Yeah.
You've been an ambassador for the sport in Japan. Where do you think it's going?
I think the sport of stand up, like not the competition side, prize money or whatever. Like I think as a sport it'll grow because people will realize that what's important in life is to get out in nature or a lot of people through this COVID situation are coming to the beach because they can't go to malls or they can't go to Disneyland or they can't go into the city. So hopefully a lot more people start getting on the water, and I kind of see that happening. But at the same time, in terms of competitions, events, prize money races and stuff, I see a slow return because the sponsors that were paying for these events, like they're having a hard time too, you know?
Mm.
So we might not see the money being filtered into the sport. And that's even as an athlete, everyone's gonna see drawbacks from sponsors. And that's my guess. I haven't met a company that's doing well in this situation,
Yeah.
you know?
Except Zoom.
And I think, yeah, yeah.
Should have bought that stock.
Seriously, I think before companies start firing their employees, they'll cut back on events and athletes
Yeah, it
for
seems
sure.
like a sup race is the least essential part of the economy right now.
Yeah,
We're kind of the last thing that's
yeah.
coming back.
But I think a blessing in disguise because maybe we can have these grassroots events without the prize money,
Yeah.
but with, more people coming out to participate. And at the end of the day, it's like the pie has to be a lot bigger if we really do want to make it a legitimate sport.
Yeah.
And in the long term, I think it'll do good for the sport because, the best paddlers in the world right now, the guys that I compete with when I go overseas, they're great athletes, even if they played another sport, they're great athletes, but we just don't have a platform that other sports do. I
Yeah.
think, you've written about this a lot. Yeah, I think we need a slower growth for
Yeah.
sure. And I think this will help with a slower growth.
Yeah, well said. I think you're spot on. I hope it does the same. The grassroots kind of gets reinvigorated from this. People won't be able to travel as often, like as easily. There won't be as much money for the big marquee international races, so they'll be racing locally, and so many people will be excited to get back on the water that hopefully it'll really give the grassroots events a burst of energy, and then we'll have that
Exactly, like
bigger base to rebuild the pyramid.
exactly. I mean, in this situation, I don't see myself needing to race overseas, like, and traveling with the risk that is. After this situation comes out, I see myself doing all the races in Japan to try and get people excited about paddling and racing. And if there is the World Championships or an event like that, like going to that event and testing myself against the best in the world.
Yeah,
Because I think doing 20, 30 events around the world is, especially now that I have two kids and a family, it's just not realistic.
yeah,
Um, but at the same time, I don't want to stomp on a kid's dream to become a professional paddler. I think for them it's possible, but I think me being in my 30s, my job is to try and grow the sport as much as I can so these kids that are working hard can blossom when they come to age, kind of thing.
yeah. Everyone that's over 40 was just shaking their head at you for saying you're in your 30s and you're getting old. Kelly Margetts wants to have a word with you. What's been your favorite race over the years? Is there one that sticks out?
My favorite race, like, is Molokai for sure.
Why?
Because of the story that comes with that channel, the Kaivi channel. And
Yeah,
I think it comes because I started paddling an outrigger and the people I'd meet, they're always talking about the channel, the channel, the channel, right? And I've only done it twice on the stand up, but um even in stand up, like this year, I was just going to do Molokai and Japanese races and maybe the ICF or ISA or whichever runs kind of thing. But I think they're like and trying to peak for an event like that is scary, but at the same time, it's like there's even if you cross the line first, or I've never crossed the line first, but like in first place or 20th place, you come out of the end happy kind of thing. And there's
Yeah.
not many races like that, My career paddling stand up around the world, it's like a lot of races you go to, you get like ninth and you're disappointed in yourself and you're going home wondering, like on a 30-hour flight, like, what am I doing? Kind of thing, It's
Yeah.
because we don't get paid enough to put ourselves through that almost. If we were making, even 100 grand, 200 grand a year, like, yeah, that's your job. But if most of it's coming out of your own pocket and your family has to suffer through it with you, it's like, eh, I'd rather buy my kid a toy. Like, yeah.
So you're saying you've had a very patient wife for the last 5 years?
Wait, sorry. You cut out on me on that.
I was saying your wife must have been very patient the last 5 years.
Yeah, but she was always very supportive of what I do. She still is now. And I remember when I got into stand up, it was my opportunity to try and make paddling a profession,
Mm.
because outrigger is not a profession. It's a lifestyle sport. And I don't see myself retiring from paddling ever, like a basketball player would, because it's something I'm going to do my whole life. But when I saw the start of stand up in Japan, we had the pioneers like Tomo, paddling, but like the first nationals I did, there was only maybe 11 race boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the past 7 years, it's like you have to qualify for a national title kind of thing. So when I got married with my wife, like we were both unemployed, you know,
Yeah.
and she still wanted to marry me, so she's always been supportive.
Well, it was definitely love then. That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
what's
remember going to
yeah?
the government office and putting in our paperwork, and for occupation, we both put unemployed.
You really haven't gone the traditional Japanese route at all, have you?
No, because I see myself more Japanese than American, but I think that's my American side of things. And my dad he never wore a necktie and went to work. He's always a grinder, kind of an entrepreneur kind of guy. And I think the way he raised my brother and I, like my brother's a successful musician in Tokyo, and
Yeah, right.
I'm I'm a paddler,
Pretty
so
damn successful paddler. And you're pretty entrepreneurial
yeah.
yourself.
Mm.
You've even got your own paddle brand these days.
Yeah, so the paddle brand was kind of, I mean, it's what we do, all the travel, all the training and stuff. Like, you do it for the love a lot of the time, but at the same time, if I'm taking my time away from my family, and if my family's suffering through the hard times, like I have to try and make something out of this. And basically the paddle brand was an opportunity for me to create something in terms of a business. And at the same time, I wanted to make a paddle brand because a lot of the coming from the outrigger background, like 99% of the outrigger paddles look the same, right?
Yeah.
It's just like flat back, teardrop, like easy to use kind of paddle. But when I was working with other companies and I had to use their paddles, a lot of them had concaves and like just just crazy tweaks that I was not comfortable using.
Yeah.
So I looked into making. When people ask me how my paddle is, I'm like, it's a paddle. There's nothing special about it, kind of thing. And people are always asking for the specs and stuff, but I'm like, okay, so my paddle has a flat back, so when you're trying to recover onto your next stroke, it doesn't get stuck in the back. And if you have good technique and you plant the blade right, the paddle won't slip. So it's a very user-friendly paddle, but at the same time, it just looks it's just a paddle. And I just wanted to make a business opportunity out of it because there's not much money in the sport, as you know, and I'll take what I can to provide for my family.
Yeah.
Mm.
How's the rest of your
Yeah.
gear going? The new One boards. You joined One last year. I'm actually sitting
Yeah.
here in
So
the House of One. I can see a lot of very nice race boards right outside this door. The kind that you paddle.
yeah,
They're
I
doing pretty good
noticed,
these
and
days.
yeah, the thing with my move to One was I was at a point in my career where I didn't have to do all the races around the world to make me happy. Time I wanted to work on, like, I have a model that I worked with Ben on that I'm really happy about, and I
The One
wanted to make a
designer,
board.
Benny Tadru.
Yeah, I wanted to make a board that fit my height and my weight because I'm a lot shorter and lighter than a lot of the athletes that paddle on the international stage. And after, I forget which race it was, but after one of the races in Europe, I was like, to be competitive with these guys, like I have to make almost like a semi-custom equipment. And One was happy to do that. Even with their customers, they'll do custom boards, semi-custom boards. And I really liked where Angie and Jacko came from because they're athletes, so they understand the need for equipment to be competitive at that level. And the past companies I'd work with, like I'd ask for stuff, and they're like, but we won't be able to sell many of those boards, kind of thing. So that was the biggest thing for me was they were happy to make boards that I'd be happy on. And I think my performance, in a sense, has improved because of my equipment. And that's
Yeah.
not just a sales talk. And another thing was the hollow boards because I wanted to get back into Molokai. Like I felt the need to be on hollow boards, which are stiffer and more maneuverable in the ocean, coming from an One background. Like I'd never ride a foam OC1. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you
So
What were you
and
going to take to Molokai this year? Is this
um,
were
that's
you
a
on a
hollow
one?
board.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the prototypes. So it was one of their first hollow boards
Was this last year's
over
Molokai?
last year. Yeah. So it was a little heavy, but after this race, because I wanted to spend a year training for Molokai, like I got an unlimited board from One, and it's so much lighter and stiffer. Like I was gonna try and get one of these boards on Molokai for the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just a huge advantage to be able to paddle one of the One unlimited boards. Like you
Is
can see
this
it
an
in that
unlimited?
little video of it. Yeah, that's an unlimited. It's just so easy.
How
Like
long is that thing?
the it's sorry if I'm wrong, but I think 1711.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I don't even worry about the specs, because I know it works.
Yep.
It's just, and the hollow boards, you can just like kind of tap 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 to keep it going.
They're nice, aren't they?
Mm.
They sound good. You when you
Yeah.
just like give them a knock when on the
Yeah.
beach, that drum sound, it's oddly satisfying.
Yeah. Exactly. And like I think especially in a race like Molokai where it's how long is it? Like almost 4 hours and a bit. Like I
Yeah,
think
it's long.
you'll really see an advantage. Even Jimmy's on a custom hollow board,
Yeah.
So I don't think the hollow boards make that big of a difference in like a 10K race with like 10 turns and a huge draft train.
Yeah.
But I almost want to do the Chatterjack because I know I have the perfect board for it.
How about 11 cities? It's even longer.
I don't know. That's a little too long. I don't know if I can stay away from my family for that long.
Bring them over there. They'll love it. It's Holland. You're out in the country with the windmills and the sheep. It's beautiful. But
Yeah,
no, I did.
but I really want to do those kind of races.
Yeah, I did 11 cities on the Hollow one last year. That rocket ship, that crazy funky looking thing, and
Yeah.
I agree. Like if it was a 10K race, I wouldn't have noticed much difference. But after that 1 hour mark, I was like, I'm still paddling fast. Like I'm usually hitting the wall about now.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
someone like me that definitely has a ceiling in terms of their fitness and their talent, I really noticed it because I could keep going at a respectable pace for 6 hours that day. There was even a guy I was with who I'd paddled with the last year, and like I just famously kept hitting the wall. Like I'd try and keep up with those guys, and I'd always hit the wall. And like towards the end, he was like, "You're still here. You must have been training this year." And I actually hadn't trained at all.
Yeah.
It was a really efficient board.
Yeah, it just
Not
has
necessarily
that nice
faster,
glide,
just efficient.
If like
yeah.
after being on that board, like going back to a board with a square tail, every time you release your paddle, you're getting pulled back, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Edge Pro, it's like basically you paddle, and when you're going into your next stroke, you're not slowing down. So it's not necessarily faster, especially sprinting. It's not
This was my baby.
fast board. Yeah, that's beautiful. And it just looks nice,
Yeah.
Like,
It's unique
yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
When I first saw that thing in Vietnam, I was like, oh, that thing is like, looks like it came out of an alien movie, you know? But,
yeah.
I've come to love it.
It doesn't look like a normal board, that's for sure. It definitely looks like it's come from outer space.
Exactly. And
But yeah.
and it feels different too, for sure. As you know.
Yeah, that was good fun. So Molokai next year, you're gonna that's gonna be one of your big international events then? One of your few international events from the sounds of it.
Yeah, I'll do like first half of the year I'll dedicate to Molokai. Because I think when I look back to it, like I really want to prove myself in the OC1 Molokai. Like as I was getting comfortable in the channel, like I kind of had to take a step back from outrigger paddling because I got busy with stand up.
Yeah.
But now that I'm with one and I don't have obligations to do races I don't want to do, like I really want to focus on Molokai, do the OC1 Molokai in May, and then really get the experience under my belt again to get back in that channel. Because like Travis, like he's won he's been top 3 every Molokai crossing he's done on the stand up.
Yeah, he's won it 4 times. He's gotten second, I think, twice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And but you realize, like before that, when he was doing it on the OC1, like he didn't always have that luck,
No.
It's almost like he went through that stage on the outrigger and he translated it very well into the stand up. And it helps being able to paddle his unlimited in the waters in Hawaii because there's so much movement there. So hopefully next year I spend a month or 2 in Hawaii before the race to really dial in my skills on the unlimited, which is horrible. still right now. Like I can't expect to be, like at the very top, falling off my board like 15 times in the race, like like last year I fell off my board like more than 15 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're spending a bit more time over there
uh,
next year, or what's your plan? Just get used to it in Japan?
no, I'll spend July in Hawaii,
Yeah.
maybe even June. Like my goal, I have a lot of friends on Maui, so outrigger friends on Maui, so my goal maybe is to take the family over and
Mm.
do from the OC1 Molokai to the Sub Molokai. Spend 2.5 months there.
Wow.
And even if it's half for racing, but it's half for family, being able to have my daughters kind of experience the vibes and the people over there, really friendly people, really nice community,
Yeah.
is very good for them, you know.
Yeah. You
It
sound like a
beats
pretty
being
cool
in
dad.
Japan for sure. I try to be, but
Yeah.
they're always asking for a mom.
Well, you don't have to put on a suit and tie and go to work, so I think you've already got a +1 there. That's you've definitely
Yeah.
created that lifestyle through paddling, and you've worked hard for it.
Yeah,
I
for
see how
sure.
hard you work. You're one of the hardest workers in the sport, I'd say.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
No, man, you've earned it. But we're coming up on the hour mark, and I promised everybody I wouldn't
Yeah.
ramble on too long with these daily podcasts. I have a tendency to do that. So let's wrap it up there. But mate, it was an absolute pleasure to chat with you. I'd love to do another one of these next month. Just catch up again because it's cool to stay connected with everyone
Yeah.
around the world while we're not seeing each other at the events.
Let's do it. I always enjoy talking with you too, so cool.
All right, man. Everybody go follow Kenny Kaneko on Instagram. He's been very active the last few weeks and doing a lot of cool things over there. So awesome. We'll chat to you soon, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. See you again tomorrow, everybody, for another episode of Paddlecast Quarantine Edition. Cheers.